What's going on, everybody? Tom Olson here with the Good Success Podcast, and I can't wait for today. I have been convinced by my team that from time to time I should just do a podcast on my own. And, we're into the 200, we've gotten well more than over 200 episodes on the Good Success Podcast. And lately I have been doing a lot of podcasts for other people. I have been on many different shows and many different webinars from different groups, been on panels, talked with, some of the brightest and best minds in the country about what's going on right now with coronavirus and in real estate and how to make each other better. And I've been giving a lot of advice and kind of trying to be, an encouragement really during these times. And I think that's what we need. Struggles make us stronger. You don't go to the gym because you're already strong. You go to the gym to strengthen yourself, and that struggle of lifting the weight or making yourself run or whatever the case is for you that you need and want to stay strong with, whether it's endurance or whether it's just to be stronger or to have a better looking body. Whatever those things are when it comes to building and strengthening yourself happens from struggle. And, so I kind of want to just start this off a little bit, this podcast off by just letting you to try to be an encouragement to everybody and to know that right now is the time to pay attention. Right now is the time to rethink what you're doing. Right now is the time to become alive and really not be that person that's just sucking their thumb, sitting at home, worried about all the stuff that's on the news and all the crazy people that are out there right now. We can all get sucked into that. And I'm guilty of it at times as well. And I need to make sure that I kind of even remind myself sometimes to just keep my eyes focused on my mission and my purpose and why God created me. And so my team asked me, they said, hey, why aren't you doing more of the podcast yourself? You keep getting asked and we believe in you. So we want you to do more podcasts. So I'm not sure exactly how many I'm going to do, but we've been doing more podcasts lately. If you guys are followers of our channel, and trying to get out at least one a week, unless we have other special events going out. But you guys will start hearing a little bit more from me personally, and I'm going to start by kind of what I've been saying on a lot of these webinars today. So before we get started, I do want to remind you guys about the Good Success Mastermind. If you guys are looking for some place where you can go and you can be vulnerable and you can trust the people that are there enough that they are going to be there and listen to what you have to say, have empathy, and then give you good, solid, doctrinal, not just advice on maybe how to make more money, which I think is always good, but advice really on how to do the right thing. Some of my last couple podcasts that we've done, we've talked about their struggles. We've talked about the times in their life where they had to make forks in the road. And every time that they made the right decision, it was always the hard decision. It was always the thing that wasn't easy. And that's sometimes what we need as purpose-driven entrepreneurs. We need to be able to be vulnerable. And I think the best place that you can be vulnerable is either in a group of advisors that one-on-one that you can say, hey, tell me what I'm thinking that's wrong here. How can I think better about this? And or get in a group of people that you trust. And that's what a mastermind is all about. The Good Success Mastermind is here for Christian businessmen, purpose-driven entrepreneurs that want to live a life that matters. They don't want to put their head on the pillow every night and think to themselves, did I do the right thing? No, they want to be the right person doing the right thing for the right reason. And it's a hard decision. Honestly, I'll be honest with you, it's a hard decision for me to continue down that path because doing the right thing doesn't always sell. It's hard to hear that. And sometimes people are like, I don't want to pay somebody to tell me that I need to do the right thing. But this is what we need to do. This is what we need. I believe I could have, grown this mastermind to having, hundreds of people much quicker if I would have taken the path of least resistance. And if I would have said, it's not your fault. You're not doing anything wrong. It's everybody else's fault, and we're going to show you how to fix that. That's literally the message of almost every mastermind that I hear out there. And the Good Success Mastermind is different, and that's why I believe it's different, because it's for different people, and it is for and it's really the people that really I want to serve. I don't really care if you want to have a bunch of money. It doesn't, to me, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. If you have $1 trillion, what gaineth a man what profit a man if he gain the entire world? You could have all the entire world's riches, but if you lose your soul doing it, if you lose your family doing it, that's not good success. And that's not what our mastermind's all about. So if you're interested in a mastermind that's going to keep you on that straight and narrow, it's going to help you make the hard decisions and the decisions to say no to all those things that you shouldn't be doing so you can focus on the right things that you should be doing, I would tell you to check out the Good Success Mastermind, goodsuccess.com. You can find out more information there and find out about how to come to our very next boot camp and mastermind, which you get to be a part of every time. So every time we have a boot camp, which is an all-day event. Our next boot camp is going to be about your business. How do you start a business properly? How do you set up a business properly? How do you scale a business properly? Maybe how you hire the right people. We'll be talking about that a little bit, and how to really put yourself in a position of a business owner and not just a solopreneur, which most business owners are. They're just working in their business. All they did was get a higher paying job, and they didn't really put themselves in the position to be an owner in their business. That's what the boot camp's going to be all about at the very next Good Success Mastermind. And then we'll have a mastermind, 2 days. You'll tell everybody who you are, what you do, what you're really good at, something that you've learned, and then what you need help with. What is your biggest challenge? What's the one thing that if I could wave a magic wand and solve that problem in your business, it would be worth the whole world to you? Or it's the one thing that everybody right now that's listening to this thing would tell me right away, because you know what it is, that one thing. So also want to remind you guys, if you haven't picked up the Active Turnkey book, you can go to Amazon and get this, or you can actually get this on our website at goodsuccess.com. I also have written a book, Investors versus Contractors. I've been in both seats, and I still am in both seats, so I understand the relationship and how both sides can see things from a good perspective and a wrong perspective, and that's kind of what I show about in that book. And then also the 30 Days to Good Success Journey. I love this book. If you have never given yourself a life's plan, not just a business plan for your business, but a life's plan, and kind of put yourself in motion. Again, it's all about asking yourself the hard questions and putting yourself on the path and making those hard decisions, those forks in the road where a lot of times we just ignore. We just go through our life sometimes, we ignore those forks in the road, and then we wonder why we wake up in our 30s or 40s or 50s and we haven't done with what we really were placed on this earth to do. So that's going to do it for these introductories. I'm going to get into this podcast today. So today I'm going to talk about the different trends that we're seeing right now in the different real estate sectors, and the opportunities that I believe are out there right now. And I'm going to take real estate in a lot larger spectrum than what most people on this might talk about. Most people on a podcast may talk about turnkey rentals. They may talk about vacation rentals. They may talk about lending. They may talk about IRAs. They may talk about self-storage or something specific. But I'm going to kind of back out, and I'm going to look at this from a lot larger perspective today. And I hope you'll enjoy it. If you follow me, or if you're in the groups that I'm in, you probably have already heard some of this, because I've been saying this to many different people. But like I said, my team's like, hey, why don't you do a Good Success podcast and actually tell everybody what you've been telling everybody? But basically, we've been seeing some things. And, in March and April, we didn't really know what was going on. We didn't really know what to expect. We didn't really know if the whole bottom of everything was going to fall out. And, there's been so many naysayers that, talking about how much our people are unemployed, and they love to say that that's what's going to catapult some massive economic downturn. And I do think that there's still more to come. And don't get me wrong, I'm not foolish to think that the unemployed aren't going to cause any kind of secondary ripples. That we are going to see some ripples throughout this next couple of years. And I'm not going to predict the future. I'm just going to kind of tell you today where I see things have already happened. And some of this is going to be, yes, hello, Captain Obvious. But some of this I think we haven't really taken a look at. We haven't thought about it. And I'm hoping to maybe get you to think about some things today in this podcast. And we'll go from there. So first of all, before I get going, I want to let everybody know, a little bit about who I am. I know we talk about this a little bit. And if you know me personally, you probably already know this. But I will tell you, I have two big dreams in my life, me personally, and I'm pretty purpose, laser focused on trying to make sure that everything I'm doing in my life has to do with these two things. And, first and foremost, before my two big goals, I want to make sure I glorify God. I want to make sure that I love the Lord thy God with all thy might, heart, and soul. And I want to make sure I love others. I really do. To me, I believe that at the end of the day, if you were to ask me, what do you want on your tombstone, Tom? I would say, work to have to give. Be a conduit, not a bucket. And I would want that message to continue on. I don't want that message to stop with me. I want everybody else to understand that you have all been given something, and every single one of us have been given time, talent, and treasure, and it's our job to not keep it. It's, I love these statements. Sometimes you go to masterminds and you say, and I hear, it's not about what you make, it's about what you keep. And I'm like, ooh, it's like they've got it just a little bit right. It's right. It's not wrong. I'm not trying to criticize that statement, but they're missing the whole point. It's not about what you keep. It's really about what you give. So, that's only the first part of that work to have. And I think there is a part of being a good steward that we all must be. We all must be that steward. But the reason why we should do it isn't to keep it, isn't to have a big pile of gold at the end of the day, or a house on a hill with a pocket full of $100 bills, or another car, or another yacht, or another island that we own. None of that really matters. You can't bring that to your death. You won't be able to bring that to heaven or hell. And it doesn't matter. None of that matters, guys. What matters is the way you lived your life and how much you helped others here. What difference did you make in this world? And so that's first and foremost what I want to do. And the goals that I have in that, I have two big goals in my life. One is to give away $1 billion. And I'm not going to talk about that a lot because I don't want to sound haughty. And to me, I don't know how in the world I'm ever going to reach that. I can tell you what I've been giving every single year. I've been tracking this since I was 12 years old. And I have a spreadsheet that I track this every single time everything is given. And it's not to be proudful and boastful. And I'm never going to say this publicly, how much, where I'm at in that. But that's my goal. And I wanted a goal that was so big and that I needed help to do it, that I couldn't do it by myself. And at the end of the day, I've heard people say, I want to give 6 figures. Oh, gosh, that's been done and it's so easy and it should be easy for you. I want to give $1 million. Well, guess what? I'm way past that and I want to give more. And to me, it's not enough. I'm not satisfied with what I've already done. It is hard for me sometimes to look at the accomplishments that I have had. That's just my personality to a certain degree, but I want to hit those goals and I want to set up things right now on this earth, not just for this kingdom, not just for where we're at, but for eternity. And that's the type of investments that I'm doing with my giving as well. It's not just for things on this earth. I really do want to lay up treasures in heaven with those giving. So to me, it's about getting the gospel around the world. It's about helping missionaries, but it's also about helping soup kitchens and sojourners here in Gary, Indiana, and helping local ministries, the RU home here that helps people with addictions, and many, many other charities that we give to veterans and many other people, and sometimes just missionaries individually, or different schools or different people that we see, and sometimes just individuals that need help. I want to be a conduit of everything God's given me, but that's one big goal, is to give away $1 billion. Number 2, I want to flip the city of Gary, Indiana, and I'm right here in Gary, Indiana. My office is in Gary, Indiana. My events are in Gary, Indiana. My community Go-Giver event every year is in Gary, Indiana, and I'm trying. Everything I do has that purpose and that thought in my life. So from all the way from glorifying God to all the way through that line, it's like a filter that I use to make my decisions. And I just want to start with that before I actually get into to the cusp of where I'm going to talk about. But so what are we seeing right now? What are the trends that we are seeing right now in real estate? Well, first of all, I think it's very important. Population and the way people move around the country is something that everybody will always tell you is an important thing to pay attention to. And I'm going to tell you right now, there's a massive shift in what has been happening. So between 1995, let's say, and 2008, we had this massive kind of exodus from the big cities. We really, and I wouldn't say exodus as in out into the country 4 or 5 hours away, but there was kind of like a sprawling out. And I'm here from Chicago. There's 9 million people here in Chicagoland. And I can remember people moving almost all the way up to the Wisconsin border, where it would take an hour and a half to get to work if they worked in Chicago. We saw this. We saw this sprawling out, people moving way out. I'm here in Gary, Indiana, but I was seeing people move all the way out to DeMont, Indiana, and Lowell, and way farther south, where, again, if they had to drive to Chicago, it'd be an hour, hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes maybe each way. So you're thinking 2 hours possibly each way to get to where you work. And we saw this trend. And in 2008, that stopped. That was like, there was a massive shift in 2008, and it kind of all started contracting again. And really, like, even the smaller towns farther out have even been getting less and less popular, and those values have gone up a little bit. They've stabilized, but they have never really kind of come back up to, pre-2006, 2007 numbers. So has been happening up until 2020, and now we're already seeing the exact opposite effect happen. And I think the psychology of people has changed a little bit, and it's just important. I don't think that I don't have a lot to talk about it. I think it's obvious why. If the coronavirus wasn't enough, and you kind of take on top of that, you have the rioting and the looting and that kind of stuff that's happening. And, to me, I'm looking at, where do I want to live? If I'm an individual that maybe I want to go and protest, and maybe and that's fine. I have no problem with that. I do believe that once you cross that line from protesting peacefully to looting and stealing these are God's laws, not mine. God says, love your neighbor as yourself. Okay, so if you're loving your neighbor, I can see protesting and loving your neighbor that way. I don't see looting and stealing as a way to love your neighbor. It's a way to love yourself, is what it is. And God says, thou shalt not kill. God says, thou shalt not steal. And those aren't my laws. Those are His. So if you don't like those, you can definitely take it up with Him. But at the end of the day, we all know how that's going to end. So anyways, I think it's important to understand that population is moving away from big cities. We've seen this in Chicago, locally here. There hasn't been a city in the United States that's been hurt as bad as New York City. They are possibly saying over 100,000 people, 150,000 people will move out or have already moved out of the Big Apple. So, that's a lot of people to move into other areas. When unemployment was only 2 and 3% in most of the country, you have that many people move to a certain area. It's interesting to definitely to kind of pay attention to. So again, I'm going to talk about things that I'm just paying attention to, and I think you guys ought to as well. But population are moving away from big cities, especially East Coast, northern East Coast. And they're moving to places like Miami. They're moving to Atlanta. They're moving to Chicago. They're moving to LA. They are moving to other tertiary, secondary markets outside of those areas as well. I think in addition to that, all big cities are starting to see a little bit more of a sprawling out. I believe the new build constructions will kind of be another layer out, and I think people are going to be willing to go out there. Why? Again, our psychology has changed, guys. If this happens again, if we have to be quarantined again, I can promise you, I don't want to be anywhere near, a bunch of other people. Do I want to be in a multifamily building? No. And again, I'm not trying to beat multifamily as a bad thing. I'm just letting you know, I believe that where do I want to be? I want to be in a single family house with a backyard, in my own entrance and my own exits, and a backyard where I can grill if I want to, and I can have my own stuff. So that's just kind of what we're seeing happen. And again, that's kind of been like a difference between the last 10 years and the next 10 years. I actually think this is going to continue. So I am predicting the future a little bit here. And if I had a crystal ball, I would tell you I believe the trend has been reversed. The trend was to come into big cities, and we're going to start seeing that trend go back out. So those markets that are those really good, strong markets outside, I think are even going to get stronger. The suburban areas, I believe, are going to get stronger and stronger, and we're going to see that happen. All right, so the next thing that we have seen. So I own a property management company, and I've seen this in my property management company, as well as every single other property management company that I have talked to. And I have talked to at least 30 or 40 property management companies around the country in the last 5 or 6 months. And every single one of them that is managing single family rentals in any part of the country other than New York City. So in New York City, new leases were down 60%. Just so you guys know. But in every other market that I've talked to, even in markets that have kind of been shut down to a certain degree, the rent demand for single family residents has skyrocketed. We personally got 5 times the application that we have ever gotten in any month in both April and in May. And right now, like if somebody wanted a place to rent, I don't even have a place to put them. I think we just put one up on the market yesterday, and I don't expect it to be, vacant, for the rest of this week. Along with that, well, what happens when rent demand changes? Guess what? Prices go up. It happened in 2008, and it's happening again. You can almost bet you're going to be able to get $50 to $100 more for rent right now than you could have in January. And I'm just telling you, if you don't believe me, just test it. The next time you have a rental available, make sure it's nice, make sure it's clean, make sure it's in good shape, and just try it out. Go $50 to $100 more than what you think, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Now, make sure you have good marketing systems, make sure you have good follow-up systems, and make sure you're vetting your, I'm not going to get into all that. I have another active turnkey podcast that we talk about all that stuff on, but this is what we're seeing. And when rent demand skyrockets, like things change, markets change. And I think we have to be on the lookout for what does that mean as an investor? Where do I want to invest my money? At the end of the day, I don't have to go to Target to shop. I don't have to go to the local retailer to shop. I don't. I can go to Amazon. I can go online and buy at Walmart or Target or wherever I want to buy online, right? But at the end of the day, everybody needs a place to live. That's the last thing that we will give up. The other thing that we have seen in the last 3 or 4 months is that we were so worried about we weren't going to be able to get rents from people. Well, I'm telling you, the vast majority of people, again, in single family home versus multifamily home, multifamily's actually dipped a little bit, and they haven't. It's not been as bad as maybe they thought it might be with all the restrictions on what they're allowing for people to be able to evict people. But they have dropped, I think, from an average of 78% of collecting rents to down in the 70% range in multifamily. But single families, everybody I've talked to is in the high 90s. Now, yes, are there those tenants that are like, oh, I don't have to pay. I know I don't have to pay. You can't kick me out. Yeah, I think out of 250 that we manage, we have one of those people. I believe that out of 250 right now, we have 7 others that are on some kind of payment plan. They're being honest with us, and why? Guess what? They don't want to leave their house. They don't want to. That's the last thing that they're willing to give up. And again, for us, we've had a super high collection rate, much higher than actually normal. I think our collection rate's been at 97 and 98% throughout this whole thing, which is a little bit higher. I think our normal collection rate's 96 and 97%. So we've seen high collection rates. We've seen high demand in rentals. And we've also seen that I do believe that there is going to be, there is going to be a difference in where people invest, where money flows. We've kind of people have shown their cards, so to speak, when it comes to these rental areas and what to do. So I think we all need to be on the lookout for future investments. We really do, and I think part of that equation is going to have to be, and I know there's going to be half the people out there that are going to love me for saying this, and half the people out there that are going to hate me for saying this. But I'm just telling you, I have talked to the biggest of the biggest private lenders out there, your CoreVests of the year, out there, the RCNs of the world, those big lenders that are willing to kind of actually talk to somebody one-on-one have said, we're telling everybody that we're loaning everywhere, but guess what? They're really not. And I'm going to tell you, the states that reopened early versus the states that have kind of stayed closed longer, there's going to be a price to pay, and there's going to be new investment coming in. We're seeing companies completely just move up shop and move to those other more, open places. I mean, think about it. If you were a dentist in Michigan, you lost an entire extra month worth of time than you did in Indiana. And they're right next to each other. So there is going to be a price to pay. And for those states that and those governors that decided to take those harder stances. And they're also, I believe, on the flip side, that means money's got to go flow somewhere. So those states that open quickly, like Texas, like Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, Indiana, and honestly, there were some states that didn't really close altogether. Just so you guys know, there's some plain states out there. Nebraska didn't quite close all the way. Idaho, I think, stayed mostly open. There's some states that this didn't affect as much as other states. And I think that is something to pay attention to as well. Look at the unemployment rates versus the different areas. So we have this massive unemployment rate for the country. But look at what it's actually in your county. I was shocked at when I actually did a study. When we were at, I think we was at 25 million unemployed. I think we've gone higher than that, and we've kind of maybe, we're moving around. I don't really know exactly where we're at this point. But when we were at 25 million unemployed, in our county, we were only at 6% unemployed. So what that means is that there are counties that are like 30% unemployed, and then there are counties that this didn't affect as much, because depending on what type of jobs are in your county, some jobs were essential and some jobs weren't. So I think it's it's very interesting to pay attention to. And again, for my money, if I'm looking for new investments and I'm going to loan my money, which I have a lending company and we do loan our money and we do, some deals in that type of space, I probably am going to be a little bit more looking at putting my money in states that I think had a reasonable thought process when it came to this whole thing. So that kind of leads us to the next section here. I'm going to talk about which sectors in real estate have been hurt the most. And I think this is going to be kind of obvious. It may not be obvious to everybody, but and I think just because the sector's been hurt doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad sector. I'm not trying to be critical of any sector here in real estate, and I'm sure there's probably some more sectors in real estate that I'm not going to hit at all. But obviously, hospitality. Hospitality got hit really, really bad. I know one of the members of our mastermind has a hotel, and he's like, I have been sitting at 10% occupancy for like the last 3 months. And he's like, if I could sell this thing, I would sell it in a heartbeat. So it's very painful because that's a lot of money. And yes, they make great money in good times, but they and when it's something like quarantine time, they lost a lot of money. So hospitality lost a lot of money. Cruise lines, Disney World laid off 50,000 people. Hospitality got murdered, got slaughtered this year. So even Airbnbs and vacation rentals, I can tell you for me personally, we owned or managed 16 vacation rentals, and we lost, I think, upwards of $60,000 in revenue. Now, again, we've gained some of that back, so don't go crying, poor pitiful me. And actually, at this point, we are completely, almost 100% booked on all 16 properties through the end of August. So, we've already kind of got a lot of that money back in May. A lot of our bookings canceled for May and June, and we booked it back up when Indiana started opening up and all that. And right now Becky's still getting tons of bookings when it comes to that. So, I think there are people that switched over right away. They said, I'm going to regular rental. They rented their property already. And guess what? Now they can't go back to Airbnb or vacation rental if they wanted to. So, and for me, that's a good thing because I stuck it out and I said, I'm going to stick it out. We're going to be good. And, and I think for that, I think it doesn't matter what sector you're in. It doesn't matter what you're investing in. Somebody pointed it out to me and asked me the question, why do you think you've been able to kind of, weather this? And I'm like, well, you know what? We were somewhat prepared for it. I won't tell you that we were 100% prepared for everything. And I'm not going to sit here and lie to everybody and, pump my chest and say rah, rah. But I will tell you that we were somewhat prepared for it. We did have cash. We were, strong financially. We know our numbers. Which is something that, we teach in the mastermind. You don't know your numbers. You have no idea how much you're making. I hear all these masterminds talk about these guys making $1 million a year, and then you come to find out it's gross profit, and what they're actually putting in their pocket is probably less than $100,000. Well, who cares? Like, whoop-de-doo, you might as well just go work and be a manager at Dunkin' Donuts and make 50 or 60 grand. I mean, who cares? But when it comes to Airbnb and vacation rentals, they've definitely got hurt. They got hit. But I do believe before coronavirus, before anything has happened in 2020, if you look at what we were trending, hospitality was trending upward. So just kind of understand that they had this massive dip. And, me and my wife and kids spent a week in Pensacola Beach, and I can tell you it's already, that sector's probably going to spike up pretty quickly as long as they're in states that are open and that people, have money to go to. So hospitality. The next one is retail. And honestly, guys, like retail was already on a decline before this. It's a tough sector. It really is. And retail's actually got hit really hard, especially your mom and pop shops. If you own a Target, a store, and Target was leasing from you, or maybe a Walgreens or Walmart, those places doing just fine. But some of these places, like, I don't know, and I really think we're gonna struggle coming back from retail. So, and again, don't get me wrong, real estate's gotten really localized. So you might have some areas where, okay, maybe you're doing great. You might get a message and, no, I'm doing awesome. Retail's great. I'm just going to tell you overall, like, it's been murdered. There's probably going to be malls all around the country that I believe that are going to be closing after this. So, and Amazon and even online shopping, people have no idea how much Target and Walmart make online as well too. Everybody talks about Amazon, but Target and Walmart sell a lot of stuff on online as well. So your online shopping, this is changing, our psychology. People that didn't shop online before this are now shopping online. So just look at that change and understand, like, how can I get ahead of these changes? I honestly really believe that in the near future, we will have grocery stores that are more like warehouses. And I think there will be a whole section of most grocery stores that will be a warehouse section. And, they will have AI, or they'll have some kind of just robotic arms that you plug in what you want on your app. And instead of somebody going and shopping, I think that's the most inefficient business right now is Instacart or all those places that have to, they send in shoppers for you. They actually go to the store and shop for you and come out. That's so inefficient. Like, think about it. I do believe at some point we're going to have more of a warehouse shopping for those online buyers. And I think it'll be helpful actually to even the grocery store clerks and the people that are delivering, because they'll be able to get their food so much quicker, and they won't have to be having to hand pick it up everything. So anyways, I do see changes happening in retail, even restaurants. They're talking maybe 40% of retailers, restaurant owners, small businesses may not even come back in business. I don't know what those real numbers are going to happen. I don't want to be, super bad naysaying, but I will tell you, retail's been hit. It's obvious, and office space. Those three have been hit probably the worst. We heard Nationwide tell their 60,000 employees that they're going to work home permanently now. That's massive. That's a lot of retail space. A lot of office space that we don't know what to do with at this point. So think about that. And honestly, that might be opportunity. That might be opportunity for somebody that needs an office, that wants an office for themselves, or it might be opportunity for somebody to say, hey, how can I make all this office space around the country into something different? What is going to be the next hot thing, or what's going to be needed in the marketplace to fulfill and to be a value in that market for office. So think about that. Those three things, hospitality, retail, and office, have been hit the hardest by far. And then I think to a lesser degree, I've mentioned this already a little bit, I do think the valuations on multifamily should have been hit a little bit in this. I really do. I think the rents in multifamily have been hit a little bit. Am I saying that nobody should invest in multifamily? No. Am I poo-pooing multifamily? No. Am I an investor in multifamily? Yes. Would I still invest in multifamily? Yes, but I'm going to tell you, I'd be a whole lot more conservative going forward. And I do think the living where you have a lot more to do and you have a lot more space, I think is better. But if you are going to tell me that most people are going to want to live through another coronavirus or another quarantine with 600 people living right around them, wall to wall, I'm not buying it. So again, I just think the psychology of people has changed a little bit, and I can tell you firsthand. I'm not just saying this to blow smoke. I'm saying this because on applications that we got and people that we talked to, they said we don't want to live in a multifamily unit. We want to live in your single family house. So, and yes, there's a little bit of an affordability issue because a single family house rental costs a little bit more, not a lot more than a multifamily unit, but And I'm not talking about the small multi-units, your 4 units, your 8 units, your 16 unit buildings. I'm not even talking about that as much as like the 300, 500 unit complexes. That's where the people that I have heard firsthand and looked at them right in the eyeballs, and they told me they didn't want to be around those people. So I actually had a girl in my office actually buy a house during this, and that's what put her over the edge, was because she was living in a complex that had 500 units all around her, and they were like, I can't do this anymore. And that gave them the motivation to actually get out and make it happen. So those are the sectors that I think have been hurt. I think, again, like I said, multifamily to a lesser degree. So which real estate sectors do we think this is going to benefit? And I'm going to tell you right now, I think, and this is kind of one of those sectors that's always kind of stay strong in bad economies. Sometimes it might even do better in bad economies and good economies, is storage. So, I'm telling you, for me personally, I'm adding more storage to my the location where I sit right now. We have a 3-acre parcel right now where my offices are at, and where we do our venue space, and all our different companies are sitting right here. In our office, and I've already put plans in motion, and we are going to be building storage units. I already have some. It's a little bit more where it's like in between warehouse and storage. It's a little larger. Most of ours are larger garages, and that we rent now. But I'm going to get more into the mini storage space and the small garage type space as well for that. And again, like during this, nobody moved their stuff during all this, and most people just kept paying because guess what? We like our stuff. So storage, I think, is strong. And again, I don't think storage is ever going to be like the moon. It's never going to be like, but it's going to be the solid and steady, and that's what wins the race at the end of the day. So I'm excited about storage. Something that I don't think that most people are paying attention to is this next piece, and that's warehouse. I'm not really talking about industrial as much, and industrial I know is its own market. I don't really have that in here, one way or another. I do think industrial is probably maybe better, just because of a lot of the industry that has to have plants to build stuff. Most of the time it's owned by the own company, and it's not like a real estate play as much as some of these other sectors in real estate. But warehouse is something that I think people should be thinking about, especially in areas like where I live. And I know everybody doesn't have the same advantages that we have, but I live right here in Gary, Indiana, where land is extremely cheap. You can buy acres and acres and acres for almost nothing, and you can put up warehouse buildings, and guess what? You have 4 modes of transportation right here in Gary, Indiana. We literally have 13 miles of beachfront of Lake Michigan. So guess what? If we're attached to Lake Michigan, we also are attached to all the other Great Lakes. We're also attached to the Mississippi River that goes all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. So if anything you want to move on waterways from a logistics company, and which would be housed in warehouses, you can move through sea containers and through waterways. Guess what? We also have I-65, which goes north and south all the way from Lake Michigan all the way down to the Mississippi. All the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. And we have 8094, the highway. So we have highways. We talked about waterways. We have highways that go 8094 east and west, coast to coast, east coast to west coast, I-65 all the way south. And then we got waterways. We also have an airport. Guess what? We have Gary International Airport, which now has a longer runway than Midway Airport in Chicago. And at some point, I do believe that that airport is going to get off the ground and it's going to start really churning. I do know that there was a deal made literally a couple months ago with I think it was UPS, and they're going to start leasing parts of the place. And I actually believe that eventually we will see an airport here in Gary, Indiana that will be owned or operated by a large company like either Amazon, FedEx, or UPS. I'm just predicting it. I know I'm predicting the future here, guys, and I know, it's the crystal ball of Tom, but I really do believe that's going to happen in the next probably 10 years, maybe even less. And if that happens, there's going to be more need for more warehousing and more, more trucking companies or more, logistics for stuff, because we're buying stuff online. We're not buying we're not going to stores as much, and you need a place to store all those things. So think about that, guys. And honestly, I think there's lots of other places around the country that don't have enough warehouse space. So it's not very expensive to build. So and it's a lot easier business than maybe even owning rentals, believe it or not. So it's kind of like big storage. So if you think about it, so warehouse I think is something that has really benefited from this. I know in my area right here, they built a massive warehouse a couple years ago with no tenants. They didn't have any tenants to go into it. They just built this massive thing, and now they're completely full. And I do think it's a place that if you have lots of population around you or close to you, that could be a good sector for you. And then last but not least, I think the one shining bright light throughout all of this has been affordable single-family housing. And again, I have positioned myself in this because I feel like I saw this coming about 5 years ago. And I said, you know what? We are going to have affordable crisis. We had an affordable crisis going into this COVID, and it's not stopping, people. You cannot build a house for $80,000 anymore. You cannot build a house for $120,000. Barely. You can barely build a house for $120,000 in some parts of the country if you can get land cheap enough. So if you live in populated areas that have affordable housing, when I'm talking about affordable housing, I know it's different for everybody, but I'm going to say basically anything under $200,000. In some markets, you can probably even make that up to $300,000. In some markets, you might even drop that down to, $150,000, $200,000. But I'm going to tell you, if you're in markets that are populated, that have jobs, that have a stable economy, that have anything going for it at all, and you're under $200,000, those houses have continued to go up in price during this COVID. In fact, the supply and demand has gotten so out of whack that those houses are selling so quick with multiple offers that it's happening even faster than what I would have even imagined and thought. Right here in Gary, Indiana, where literally 3 to 5 years ago, you couldn't sell a house for more than $45,000. We are selling houses for over $100,000, and they're selling quickly. So I'm just telling you, and I know my market's unique, and I know we're right outside Chicago, and other people can't really claim that. I know we're in Indiana versus Illinois, and we're still super close to Chicago with lots of population. I know we have people moving here from other states. People are moving here from Illinois. People are moving here from Michigan. People are moving here from even Ohio and Wisconsin. But I'm just going to be honest with you guys and just tell you that single-family rentals, especially, the demand is going up for single-family rentals, and we don't have enough housing. Right now, the last time I looked at this, we were looking at a 3-month shortage of not having enough housing. So on the MLS to be able to sell. So, and then you couple that with foreclosures maybe not happening at least until August, and they may give another 6. They're already talking about another 6-month pushback on that. So we're not even seeing any new foreclosures even start the process until 2021. Single family for people buying and fixing and flipping, I think is going to be super strong in that low market, and even rentals. There's the demand for rentals. And if you lost your job, you may have a hard time buying a house now. We have seen this as the shining bright light, I think, in this whole thing. So if you're an investor, I don't care if you're a lender, I don't care if you're doing a partnership with people or if you're the operator, I would be seriously, honestly looking at single family from a rental. I almost see the sandwich effect happening, and I've been talking about it for years, but I think that anything under $200,000 isn't going to last. And I think that there's going to be a constant push for all single family housing to be over $200,000 in the next 20 years. I just believe it's going to happen. I can't promise it. I'm not telling you should go out and do it. I'm just telling you that's what I believe. I really believe that we're going to see this sandwich where this bottom end goes up. And then I also really think that this top end is softening. You get over $500,000, those houses are already sitting longer. People are second guessing that, thinking, ooh, maybe I don't want to make that happen. But with interest rates so low right now, people are still even buying in that $300,000 range, $400,000 range. But I see this sandwich effect happening. And I think the foreclosures, if they're going to happen more, they're going to happen more in that $300,000 to $600,000 price range, and that's where the opportunity might be. I don't know. I could be wrong, but that's my assumption. That's what I see, because I see a lot of people that own these sub $100,000, some $200,000 properties are investors that are doing just fine because they're rented and they're having great luck finding renters. So again, I hope that helps you guys. I hope that you guys are thinking about that and paying attention to the market and what's going on around you. A couple of other things I do want to kind of mention. What are the, so you say, hey, you give me all this information. You talked about the sectors that are hurting and the sectors that maybe are doing better, or maybe that you're thinking about investing in, Tom, more. But what are the metrics to look at over the next 3 to 9 months? And I think some of this is kind of obvious, but sometimes we got to point out the obvious. And sometimes common practice is not. Common sense is not always common practice. But really, we got 30 million people without jobs. So that's unemployment is the number one thing that we probably should be looking at. Who's going to go back to work? I don't know. When they say 40% of the retail and places of restaurants and that are not going to go back to work, that's a lot of people that may not go back to work. So economists are predicting, 1 million to 2 million foreclosures. So think about that. So unemployment, foreclosures are going to happen. These are things that I'm paying attention to. I'm also paying attention to the normal things. You want to continue to pay attention to new building permits, days on market, how much inventory, your supply and demand in your market. Those are things you should always be paying attention to in any market cycle, but especially now, obviously unemployment is something we want to pay attention to. Foreclosures, population movement. I already mentioned this once, but is people moving to or moving away? All the numbers, I think, just go out the window from the last 10 years, because I think it's going to change. It's already starting to flip. Also, something else to pay really close attention to, and I know a lot of investors, myself personally, that are into this themselves, is build to rent. Right now, there's 215 subdivisions, not just 215 houses, 215 subdivisions around the country, that the whole purpose to build the entire subdivision is to rent out every single property in that subdivision. And this is a change. We have something we haven't really seen. It's been starting to build up steam and get more and more popular, but that's something to really pay attention to. It may be something that you're interested in. I know it's something that we're going to be doing here in the not too in the near future. We've already developed our own plans, and we've already kind of thought about the way we're actually going at zero energy and building a completely different type of model of a house. And so it's going to be zero energy, lots more efficient housing, and we can basically build it for the same price, and it will go up a lot quicker. So we're really excited about that, and it's something that we're super, super excited about. And then also, I think it's something to really pay close attention to is the lending industry as a whole. We have really seen it kind of, almost go away, and then all of a sudden, it is full force going back into it. It's almost funny because, in April, even me at my shop, we have 150 people, individuals, not talking about big companies. We're not talking about Corvest. We're not talking about the big private lenders that will loan money to anybody. I'm talking about private people that are interested in working with us and partnering with us or lending to us. And I do think that this is something to really pay close attention to. But in April, we were having a hard time getting people to commit, and I don't blame them. I'm like, I get it. When you're thinking everything's going to be shut down and you don't have a way to make money and your business isn't going to be able to be operating for 2 months, I get it. Even if you have a couple $1 million, you may not want to, part ways with that until you kind of see what's going on. But it's already literally changed. My lending coordinator already told me, she's like, guess what? We already have 10 people sitting in the line that want to do deals with us right now. So that's kind of already changed. The private money world has changed a little bit. And then that soft money, where I kind of talk about RCN and those other, I call it soft money. That is definitely opened back up. It's almost back to what it was pre-COVID and pre that. And I think that, and it's mostly in the single family realm. Again, if you're in other markets, they still have kind of been really conservative, and even more so conservative on some of those sectors that I said that weren't so good. But I also think it's going to be very interesting, and you're gonna know as a private lender. I believe your borrowers that are the cream of the crop borrowers are going to come to the top right now, and I also believe that we're seeing this. And we've been seeing this for a little while. This was pre-COVID. Again, I think the whole, and look, when you're looking at the whole economy and everything, it's very important to point out before COVID where things were going, were people already coming off the wheels, were businesses already coming off, or were businesses trending upward, were businesses already getting better and making better systems, were sectors doing better. And you know, for us, that's why I said affordability was already an issue pre-COVID, and it's going to be more. It's been multiplied after COVID. Same thing here: private lenders versus private borrowers. And then on the flip side, you know, if you're a private borrower, there's probably some lenders that you have said, "Hey, I'm not taking money from that person again. I don't want to go through." You know, if for some reason I can't pay this person back, or, you know, if something happens in the economy and I can't refinance out, or I can't, make something happen. I can't work through this deal with somebody as a private borrower. There's probably some lenders out there that you're like, I'm not doing business with that person ever again. We saw this happen in 2008, and we're seeing it happen again. So again, if you're a private lender, I think that you're going to watch the private borrowers and say, hey, that's the cream of the crop. I want to do more deals with that person because I know in bad times he's going to make the right decision. He's going to do whatever it takes. Me and a good friend of mine, Jim Ingersoll, were talking the other day, and we're like, you know what? If I had to sell everything, I would make sure I did that in order to pay people back. And that's the people I want to borrow. I want to loan my money to as well. So I think that whole industry in real estate with private borrowers and private lenders is something to pay attention to, and something that I think is the cream of the crop is going to rise pretty quickly. So think about that. What opportunities are we seeing right now? I think there is going to be a massive, major transfer of wealth. I really do. I believe it's going to be so massive in the next 2 to 3, 5 years that you will see trillionaires. I really believe that. You will see way more billionaires. And I think you need to understand what side of that coin do you want to be on? And I believe it really is all going to happen with personal responsibility. So I think that you got to say, hey, what side of that coin do I want to be on? And you got to say, I'm gonna be on the side that the major transfer of wealth does come in my direction. You have the choice. But I also think the opportunity we see right now is a major transfer of talent. And you cannot forget about your people. You cannot forget about the people that have lost jobs that are great people that you wish that you could hire. I'm going to tell you, during this whole thing, I've been able to hire 3 people that I think are A+ players, and I don't think I would have been able to hire them if we didn't go through this. So pay attention to that, guys, and make sure that you're one of those people. If you're out there listening to this right now and you're like, hey, I want to be on that, and maybe this isn't your crisis. I don't think we should ever let a good crisis go to waste. And I'm not trying to say to be on the side where you're taking advantage of people. You're trying. There is a time and place right now where people need help more than they've ever needed help, and you need to be the one to come in and add value and be able to give things to people, or offer programs, or offer things to people that nobody else is offering. And that's how you're going to be on that major transfer of wealth. But I think part of that is your team. There's no big business that's ever been built without an amazing team. Amazon isn't Amazon without their amazing people. Google isn't Google without amazing people. Apple isn't Apple without amazing people. And Microsoft and Walmart, and go through all the massive corporations. They don't happen without people. I think people are your most valuable resource. Way more valuable than your processes, way more valuable than your knowledge, way more valuable than your charismatic personality, way more valuable than anything else is your people. And if you can pick up a couple of awesome hires right now, I think it would be something that would be one of the best things you could possibly do. So whether that's, a CEO, maybe that's a chief investment officer, maybe that's, finding new investments for yourself. It doesn't matter. But people right now is I think that's easier right now to pinpoint good and bad than it's ever been. So pay attention to that. I also think right now is a great time to redefine your purpose. And I'm going to kind of leave this podcast with that. If you don't have the 30 days to good success, I'm just going to show you guys the very first question in this book. And in my opinion, the most important question in this book is, what is your purpose? Okay? What is your purpose? This is maybe one of the best times we've ever had to be able to redefine our purpose. I started this podcast out telling you what my purpose is, and some of the things that I'm way more passionate about than real estate. And as you guys watch me or listen to me, you could probably tell I got really passionate about it, and I was really excited about it because that's what matters. What really matters is, do I glorify God? What really matters is, do I do the right thing? Am I the right person doing the right thing for the right reason with the right people for the right amount of time? That's what I'm focused on every single day. And if you don't have your purpose clearly defined, if you don't know what you're good at, I highly recommend you pick up this book. You can go to our website. It's a $50 book, and I think on our website you can get it for $19.99. I've got many different people that have read it, listened to it, and filled it out. It's actually meant for you to fill out every day and go through and actually fill it out for yourself and help redefine your purpose and or your family. This has been an amazing time to spend time with our family. I've got to get to know my daughters, Lily and Edie, better than I've ever been able to. My son, Zach, we've had a closer relationship now than we've ever had. Even my wife, me and my wife, I think right now are probably as close as we've ever been in 23 years of marriage. And I will tell you, if you're not taking advantage of those blessings that you're getting right now, you are absolutely missing out. And it would do you some really good. I'm going to leave you guys with this encouragement, and then we'll end the podcast here. But I think it would do you some real big good to stop right now and take a pen and a piece of paper, and I want you to write down every blessing that's happened in the last 3 months that would have never happened if we didn't have COVID. And sometimes we got to avoid having a bad outcome that we feared, right? For me, I could probably write you a whole list of 10 things that I feared could happen and didn't happen, and I would write those down as blessings. Those are things that I can't explain. I can't explain by just chance. I can't explain by those things. Those are only by the grace of God. And I'll tell you, during these times of desert, during these times of storm or struggle, I opened the podcast this way, and I'm going to end the podcast this way. These are many times blessings in disguise, and I hope that you'll focus on those blessings and be thankful for those blessings. Go through your day today thanking God that He placed you on this earth, and He gave you the wife He gave you the house He gave you the people and the influence that He's given you, and He's given you the opportunities to be able to make this world a better place. What an exciting thought. You have an opportunity today to make this world a better place. I'll leave you with this quote: who in this world is going to live their life thanking God that you lived yours? All right, that's going to do it for today's episode, guys. I know it's a little bit longer. I know I went into pretty detail of my thoughts right now. I just thought it was a little bit important. My team thought it was important. So I'm just going to leave you with that. So that's going to do it for today, guys. Remember to be a conduit, not a bucket. Work to have to give. And we'll see you on the next one.